Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with the CEO of Hemlane, Dana. How you doing, Dana?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
This is an important topic. I've told the story a couple of times that I had to change my first 5 property managers. And now when I say change, all of you should hear fired uh, because they didn't perform or meet expectations. So this is something that most investors, frankly, don't want to do.
Yeah.
But, sometimes you need to do it. And frankly, sometimes you should do it. So let's talk about changing PMs.
Yeah. So I think it's very real. You're changing PMs when you're first just purchasing the property, whether you're self-managing or bringing on a different property manager, or in the case of Michael just mentioned, if something is going wrong and you're not getting that performance. And in most cases, when you do it, you are, and this is especially on the firing side, but also on just the selling and acquiring a new property, you don't really know because you haven't spoken with the tenants and said, like, how has been the upkeep been on repairs and maintenance?
Yep.
It can be a complete surprise to you of what am I expecting? How is this relationship going to be?
Right.
I think more importantly, also for the tenants for a tenant, anytime there's change, there is anxiety. And anxiety is real, and you want to lower that with tenants. You want them to have a very mindless, easy rental experience. And so with it, the first thing to do is to make sure, especially if you're acquiring the property, I'll talk about the firing as well. You want to make sure that the existing PM or the selling agent has reached out to the tenant to let them know that management will be changing, and that they will be receiving on X date or by a certain date communication from the new management. And the reason for that is you don't want to reach out to them and say, I just bought this property and I'm excited to start working with you. And they're like, and send your rent to me. And they're like, is this a scam?
Yeah.
So make sure there is that past communication on the transition. That's very professional. If you're firing a PM, it's usually, if you're moving to self-management, it would be you doing it. If you're moving to a different manager, it would be them doing it. But really making sure that there is contact with the tenant, not text message, not email, that's a phone call, to let them know we are changing management and it's for your benefit. This is all about you, tenant. You're our customer. This is all for you. It's going to be a better experience for you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. This is I say it all the time. You're in a people business, and the tenants are your customers. You may be firing your PM, and I fired the first 5. That's for reasons the tenant doesn't really care.
Yeah.
You need to realize that communication needs to be clear, needs to be personable, needs to be in person. When in doubt, notices on the door, whatever. Don't make it about rent.
Yep.
That's important to you, not them. That adds stress. One of the things that I highly recommend folks do, if you're gonna, like, if you're buying a unit, like if you buy a unit or units, you should have a conversation and what needs to be done. Ask, be of service.
Yep.
Right. And if it's big enough, then I remember one time we threw, I don't know, I guess I call it a barbecue for lack of a better word, but just kind of a welcome, new management town. It was a building that was horribly run, and we just wanted to set the tone. And we ended up changing 90% of the tenants, but we didn't know that day. But yeah, I mean, you've got to realize that the tenants are going to have, all they're going to hear or all they're going to think is, damn it, my rent's going up. That's all they're going to think.
Yeah. And that's another thing, is that if you're changing and you're not expecting to change any of the lease terms, let them know that. Let them know, hey, the lease is still in place until the end of this, duration term, whatever it is, 12 months, however long you have left. We're not changing any of that. Everything stays in place how it is. If you are planning on increasing rent, obviously you would do it legally based on how much notice you have to provide and all of that. But what you don't want to do is have that anxiety level go up, the tenant not know who to reach out to, or to think, oh goodness, they're not going to be there for me. And then one of the big things I actually see is on the repair side. A lot of times, especially Michael, in your case of firing, there are situations where if you're firing a property manager, it's most likely lack of communication and lack of professionalism. And so that transpires down to the day-to-day of have they even responded to the tenants on repair requests? What needs to be done? What's reasonable? What might be something that is just cosmetic that doesn't need to be changed? We're really making sure to have that conversation with the tenants and making sure that their anxiety level doesn't go up. And I always say over communication is better. For sure. You know, really making sure that you've communicated everything out, that you've checked the box that they've heard from you, et cetera.
Yeah. And again, over communicate, just over communicate. These are your customers. Ideally, you want them for a long time. Over communicate, be sensitive, realize that they're going to be nervous. They're always going to assume the downside. And just be a good person. Over communicate would be my advice. Yeah.
And sometimes if you're taking it to self-management and you're like, oh, I don't want to give them my personal cell phone, you can set up a Google Voice for free, route it to your phone, and have the message say, you know, thank you so much for contacting Zuber Investments LLC. Our hours of operation are like 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. If it's an emergency, here's the number to call. You can do something like that to make sure that communication is there and that they have that direct line of communication. But, you know, not providing a number or not providing a 24/7 emergency number, not having things set up of how they contact you increases that anxiety.
Absolutely. If somebody wanted to play with the trial and pretend to be a landlord, where do you want them to go?
Yeah, go to hemlane.com. That's HEMLANE.com. And then mention one rental at a time or Michael Zuber, either one. You'll get your first year 20% off.
Yeah, that is awesome. And again, folks, something you might want to do if you're looking to be a real estate investor and you don't have your first one, I suggest taking the free 30-day trial. Just pretend to be a landlord, have tenants, collect rent, do maintenance, just get a feel for what it might look like. So Dana, thank you very much.
Great. Thanks for having me.